Hi guys, Greg here. Today we've got our part 2 of diving into the music of Super Mario Odyssey. I'm excited to get cracking, so let's just get on going. If you like what you see today, as usual, please subscribe, chat to me in the comments down below, smash like, all the good stuff. Without further ado, let's just get going. In our last video on the music of Super Mario Odyssey, we looked at the Cap Kingdom and Bonneton. Here we saw how the soundtrack managed to gently lull us into the basic mechanics of the game, quashing any pre-adventure anxiety the player may have been experiencing. If you haven't seen that video, you can check that out here. I alluded to the fact that we were in for an absolute musical roundhouse kick to the ears of our second world, and boy, I was not lying. The Cascade Kingdom in Fossil Falls launches onto the scene with an epic anthem fitting of a blockbuster film. To me, this music's main theme sounds reminiscent of themes from iconic movies such as Jurassic Park or Star Wars. This kingdom's aesthetic is all about going big. Waterfalls, dinosaurs, and to complement this goal, probably one of the most memorable themes in the whole of Super Mario Odyssey. Whereas the music of Cap Kingdom was light and used instruments sparingly, Fossil Falls comes out all guns blazing, and we can hear this right from the get-go with a full brass section and the louder individuals of the percussion section accompanying intensely rhythmic flourishes from a full string section. I'm not going to talk too much about texture in this video, as that was covered in the last kingdom. Besides, in line with this kingdom's aesthetic, the texture is pretty thick all throughout. Seeing as this kingdom has such a blockbuster-esque anthem, I thought I'd delve into what makes a strong melody and how composers can develop their melodies in their compositions. And we'll cover a little bit of harmony and even talk about some degrees of the scale for good measure. Let's go! So if we're going to talk about what makes a strong melody, we need to first talk about some super simplified harmony basics to give ourselves a bit of a foundation. When I talk about melody, I mean the tune of a piece that you'll sing along to. It's the bit we remember and that stands out. But great melodies are great partly because they're supported by other material, and that is generally referred to as the harmony. Our ears have listened to a lot of music, not just in our lifetimes but for generations. So much music in fact that our ears have become accustomed to what combination of pitches sound pleasing. The reasons why certain combinations sound particularly good actually has some interesting maths behind it, if you believe there could be such a thing as interesting maths, but that's a topic worthy of an entire video all to itself. Just know that certain combinations are pleasing and sound consonant, while others sound dissonant. So to help us write music that can utilise these pleasing combinations of pitches, we need a basic blueprint to operate with. Think of it as an outline to a drawing. We need to make sure we're colouring in the lines, as that is pleasing to the meat computers in our heads. The majority of modern Western music is written in a key. You can think of a key as a musical colour palette. If I'm writing a piece of music in C major, I know what pitches I have access to so that I can continue to operate within the realm of C major. And these pitches will all function together in, for lack of a better term, harmony, in order to stay cohesive throughout a piece of music. The pitches I can use come in the form of a scale, and the key of C major will have the accompanying scale of C major. Stacking some notes from the scale on top of each other, we get our basic chords we can use for the piece, and these are called triads because they have 3 notes in them. When music theorists get together at cocktail parties and discuss why music sounds like it does, they like to assign names or numbers to each of the pitches in a scale. And this is useful when thinking about how we can write some banging melodies, as thinking in terms of what number or degree of the scale of pitches can help give our melodies direction and focus. In C major then, for example, C is 1, D is the next step up in the scale, so 2, E, 3, and so on until we arrive at the C at the top again when we return to 1. The 1 of any scale is called the tonic and is our home note. Most pieces will probably start on the tonic and most pieces will end on the tonic so as to feel finished or complete. Knowing this is the first key to writing strong melodies. When we land on our tonic, the melody is going to feel like it's arrived home or finished. Another important degree of the scale is the 5th note or the dominant. Again, without delving too much into the maths behind why, 1 and 5 played together is considered the most pleasing and consonant combination of notes. Now the dominant, with its corresponding triad, really wants to get to our tonic, more so than any other degrees of the scale. This is due to the notes of each triad being very close together, and remember our ear is conditioned to recognise when we arrive at our tonic. Because the pitches of the dominant triad are so close to our tonic triads, our ears are yearning for a big, juicy resolution. If we can consider 1, or the tonic, to be associated with home and finality, then we can associate 5 with moving away or forward momentum, as hearing the 5 spurs our ears on to expect an upcoming resolution to 1. If we move from 5 to 1, and accompanied by some nice harmony, we get what's called a perfect cadence, and you can think of a cadence as musical punctuation. A perfect cadence is about as much of a full stop as you can get when writing music and can help give a sense that our melody or piece has finished. Alright, but Greg, enough of this technical talk. How can I use this information to write some musical bangers? And let's have a look at how the melody of Fossil Falls is constructed. Fossil Falls actually happens to be in the key of C. Looking at our main theme of Fossil Falls, we can see that we actually start on the dominant of the scale with a short but bold statement. It's only 3 pitches long. Fossil Falls shows us how you can eke a ton of material out of a strong melodic idea. But what makes this statement work so well in comparison to other combinations of 3 pitches? Throughout the introduction of the piece, we've had the pitch C played repeatedly by tuba, basses and even timpani in this driving rhythmic fashion. This really drives into our ears without us even realising that we are in the key of C. To start the melody on the dominant is a safe bet, as we know it sounds particularly pleasing with our tonic, and if you look at where the melody goes to on our next pitch, we see that the composer chooses to land on the tonic before moving on to the second degree of the scale, a D. This is interesting, as remember when I said that landing on our tonic will give a sense we've arrived or finished? By choosing to pass through our tonic at the start of the theme, the composer has solidified a sense of the key, but also given a sense of forward momentum by not hanging around on it. We arrive on our tonic from the dominant no less. Remember, that's as much of an arrival as we can get in music, and then we've moved on to the second of the scale. In the context of Super Mario Odyssey, we've started the real game now, and we have a whole universe of exciting worlds to explore ahead of us. This is such a strong melodic statement that it provides the material for most of Fossil Falls. We hear this same idea used again a couple of bars later, yet this time, instead of being spread out across a bar and a half, the same 3 pitches are condensed into a shorter time frame. The next time we hear the theme, we get a slight variation on what we've just heard, and I really do mean slight. Moving into the second half of the main theme, again we only have a slight deviation. Instead of G, C, D, we now have the first pitch 1 step higher, resulting in A, C, D. The outline of the melody is still recognisable, but a slight variation in pitch provides a bit of variety. Before the theme repeats around, we hear this figure in the main theme. Remember what I said about moving from 5 to 1 as being a full stop? 1 to 5 signals the opposite finishing, that we're carrying on. The theme now repeats around, albeit now on a grander scale with more instruments involved, which all comes together in a climactic fanfare which rounds out the theme. So we can take from what we've seen so far that if you've got a strong melodic idea, don't be afraid to stick with the material you've got. Try and think about ways you can develop on your idea, by being selective with what pitches to use in the main melodic statement of this piece's theme, and more importantly, thinking about how the pitches function in the key we are in. The composer has written a bold statement which serves as an anthemic arrival for the start of the main journey of Super Mario Odyssey. Before I end my talk about Fossil Falls, let me just demonstrate how strong melodic ideas can really stick with us. It's incredible to think how far Mario has come from his first iteration. What was a 2D, few pixel masterpiece has evolved into the gorgeous high-definition games we have today. The music has grown along with these games, but how does a Mario game still retain its identity? If we look at the last few bars of the Fossil Falls theme, we hear this stepwise ascending motion in the bass accompanying this dramatic fanfare figure, which brings us nicely back to the start of the piece. Game music needs to be able to loop around and around because who knows how long the player is going to spend in like a certain area. This figure stuck out to me, particularly the movement of the bass line. When you finish a level in the original Super Mario Bros, you hear this fanfare. We hear a very similar sounding pattern here, and this to me screams Mario in the past, present, and I'm sure it will in the future. What a banger. Thanks everyone for watching today, and we got through a lot of stuff. Good job all around, I reckon. You get a pat on the back. You get a pat on the back. As always, if you want to see more stuff like this, you can subscribe down below, chat to me about what you thought was good or bad. I'm streaming on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays in the afternoon at some point, usually 3-ish kind of maybe. And I will see you all next week. Bye for now.